again, you should open up your brainstorm from yesterday. You're going to want to use it today. Also, remember, there were a bunch of words that I made you practice yesterday. You don't have to use those, but it will make your detective story a lot more believable because you have all of this detective jargon, right? That makes yours seem more legit. Plus, everyone come find this if you didn't find the one that says detective fiction story. Okay, so the first thing I want to kind of remind everybody, go ahead and show me your screens just real quick, whatever you're trying to finish it in a second. You saw this yesterday, but starting, like always, is the hardest part, but it's really, really easy. And guys, I'm going to be honest, detective fiction is my jam. So if you get stuck at any point, I can give you a billion pointers of how to get unstuck. Show me screens, Michael, Susie. Okay, so while you're starting your story, I want you to think about, maybe I might just start with my crime. Most detective fiction does that, actually. So it's not that unique because most of them do it, but it makes sense. So a lot of them either start with the crime literally being committed, or it's the detective showing up to the crime scene. That might be your very first part of your story. Okay, so just something to consider. I made you learn about means, motive, and opportunity yesterday because we need those to make our crime believable. Could they have even done it? Why did they do it? So be thinking about that as part of your story. Now, after you have introduced either the crime or your detective, because most of them start that way, then start thinking about how the detective is dealing with clues. So maybe once the detective shows up, they start investigating and they start pointing out stuff they think matters. That's usually the next logical step. Before you get to solution, think about your characters, because yeah, you have your detective character, but a lot of detective fiction has more than one character involved. So maybe your detective has a sidekick, right? Maybe they interact with their sidekick character a lot. Maybe they're interacting with characters who are the suspects. So that's a lot of where the story comes from. They're looking for different clues. They're interviewing different suspects. That might be where a lot of your story is. Remember, suspension and tension are usually a big deal, unless yours is a silly one. Most of you are doing more of like the doom and gloom type, which is great, but it's also fine if you're doing a more silly one. And then you do need an ending on this project. I want you to actually have a solution, because I'm just going to be honest, it'll just drive me nuts while I'm reading and grading them. I have to know what the answer is, otherwise I'll just be unresolved for the rest of my life. So I do want solutions. So as you start your story, don't make your story so insanely complicated that there's no way you can ever get to the solution, right? But that's another kind of archetype when a detective is finally giving, like, I solved the case. And then they kind of give their little monologue of here's what happened. That's an archetype in detective fiction, right? That they tell you the who did it of it all. So that being said, it's pretty simple. So there's a really specific reason I'm going to have you do 2 pages on this assignment. So you have 2 days, so don't freak out, first of all, okay? But you really can't do detective fiction in 1 page, because if we did a 1-page detective fiction story, you'd have enough time for 1 clue and 1 suspect, and it would be pretty lame. So that's why this is going to be a little bit more extended, but 2 pages is really easy to do in detective fiction because there's so many clues you could focus on, so much like dealing with suspects. You might have a plot twist thrown in there. Some of you were planning really cool plot twists the other day. So while you're writing, though, maybe have, like I said, have your brainstorm from yesterday pulled up so that you can be thinking of using some of that detective terminology, or not, and that's fine too. And your goal today is to basically finish 1 page, okay? And you can stop once you get to 1 page, but while you're working with your partner, you actually have to work together, right? We talked about that yesterday. Even if one of you are doing most of the typing, both of you should constantly be talking about the ideas together, okay? So a lot of you are going to recognize this poster. I'm going to end here. Ignore the stuff in purple. This is for my 6th period because I have to be gone for my surgeon. But just to remind you, so you have to actually be getting work done, right? And not shutting people's computers like might have happened yesterday. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? You have to actually be getting work done. Number 2, you have to be doing it together. If one person is doing all the work, then I'll just give that person all the grades, okay? Do it together. And you absolutely should be talking together. So don't think that I'm gonna yell at you for talking. Just don't be so crazy loud. Like somebody in first period kept yelling like something to do with Chef Boyardee. That was their detective or something. So anyways, don't be so distracting that no one is getting stuff done, okay? Questions before I say go? Yes.
What?
You can turn screens around.
What if we do as a partner? We
Yeah.
do 4 pages together. We both do 2 pages.
So I really don't want you splitting up the work like that because it won't come across as one cohesive story. Do all the ideas together, okay? Because especially, think about it like this. 2 brains are usually better than 1 brain. So you might have a doubly awesome story because you actually did collectively do it together. Mary.
Is it okay if your story is different from the original brainstorm?
Yes. Absolutely, always, always, always okay. The only thing that isn't okay on this project is not having an ending. That I usually say, it doesn't matter if it doesn't have an ending, but on this one, I want an ending, okay? Okay, go. Thanks, guys.